minutes, I just wanted to give you a recap of what the whole .money thing is. And then I wanted to share with you some news that you may not have heard of, and just sort of ask you guys what, if anything, it means to you, why perhaps we haven't heard of it. But the .money solution is really targeted towards creating a new economy by subscribers. Okay, so it's an economy of subscription. So in other words, now we live in a day and age, because of the communications technology, that we could form an organization that literally has our own economy with our own money, not to do away with all other money, but to cure some of the problems that exist within the current economic and financial and monetary systems. Okay. So specifically, what if we wanted to target the problems of lowering or eliminating taxes, stabilizing the global economy, and protect our country from man-made and natural disasters, and reform the welfare system? So this is a means to introduce privatized welfare, but it's also a means to help improve the quality of life for everybody. Because right now we live within an economic and monetary system where we think that we have no way out of it. We have to abide within a specific system when in fact we can actually create and invent new ones. The government doesn't necessarily create these new economic models, they govern them. So many people live under the impression that this is how it is, and that's money, and the government controls all that stuff. Well, that's not exactly true. They control their money and the printing of what they create, but there's monies from all other countries that can be spent here, and now we can actually create our own money. And the significance of that is that we could create our own rule set around the money. And the advent of this blockchain technology and keeping records on the internet is facilitating all that. So in other words, I could make up a new economy and ask you guys to subscribe to it just like you would subscribe to an online video game and say, these are the rules of this economy. But the money can be spent anywhere. It can be spent at Target. It can be spent, in fact, more conveniently than our current money can. You wouldn't need to carry a card with you, for example, or if you wanted to be kind of funny, you could print up coupons that you call your own money. You could decorate your own money and literally print it out. Of course, once you spend it, it would be no good, but you could have it attached to a debit card, a conventional card like we already do. You could spend it in many other ways. And another advantage of this system is that your money would be protected from the failure of any financial institution, because your money doesn't need to be deposited into any particular bank. Okay, it's held out there as a record on the internet. So it doesn't matter what happens with the financial institutions. So .money is the first rules-based introduction of that system. We put out a press release last April, and we got a lot of attention around that. It doesn't cost a lot to implement this, believe it or not. And hopefully by June of next year, it'll launch with, you'll actually have debit cards and stuff. Again, you can spend it anywhere you want. Another great facility about this is that, and this is probably the most important thing, is you might ask yourself, well, how does it stabilize the global economy? Well, it does that because the exchange rate of our money in our economy by subscription is fixed within a specific range against all the other currencies of the world. So what does that mean? That means that we're not only helping to sustain the value of the money that you have in terms of the relation of all the other countries in the world, but we're also helping to sustain the value of their individual currencies within that range as well. So it helps to solve a problem for the existing economy the more people use this system, okay? And probably a lot of fund managers and other people will be the first ones to use the system as a hedge against devaluation. So you don't have to go out and buy gold and silver and things that you can't spend to become a speculator. You could buy something that you can spend and have your value protected. How does it protect from man-made natural disasters? Well, in our economy, there is an administrator that actually creates money as needed. Okay? It's a big difference than what we have in our debt-based system right now, where any new money that's created has to be paid back. It's a fundamental problem that we have with our current system when they implemented this current fiat system, which virtually the entire world uses. Even China has a $25 trillion deficit. Okay? They use the same debt-based system. As the population grows, the problem with our current system is there's no new money being created. It doesn't have to be repaid. So it's a fundamental failure that we're experiencing now at levels that we never experienced in the past. As the population grows, there's no fix to that problem. I'll show you what the government's fix is going to be, which you guys probably have never heard of, and it's kind of interesting. But their fix to the solution is just sort of write it away, saying we don't owe this debt anymore, and guess what? We're going to go back to a commodity-based system, which didn't work in the first place either for similar reasons. There's just not enough commodities to go around. Okay, so I want to just make sure I covered the review of .money here. The other, why would you want to use it? Okay, A, convenience. B, to protect the value of your money. And C, because within the first 5 years, the implementation that's planned is so that any transactions that you make in DotMoney would cover the, well, not any, but certain transactions that you make in DotMoney, the taxes on those transactions, the sales taxes, would be covered by the organization. In a 10-year time frame, the ultimate goal is to give everybody all the subscribers, that is, those people who can prove that their identity and go through the application process, to give everybody between $1,200 to $1,600 a month, again, that you could just spend on for any lawful purpose. Okay, so we're not just handing it out to terrorists or anybody like that. This is a rules-based economy, and people's flow of cash can be turned off as well. Okay, so this new money is not designed to replace existing money, because we're not out there engaging in the banking functions of each country where we're in the lending business like they are. But there's huge incentives for the banks to get involved in the business, because money that is traded for dot money is cash that sits in their bank that they can lend out. It takes pressure off of them. Because of our economy, when the government exchanges their money for dot money, we create a liquidity for them that they don't currently have. Any new money that comes out of the government right now has to be repaid. It's created through debt. So they have no mechanism to unwind that. By them accepting dot money, which there's no indication that they're not going to, it creates a new facility for them to get rid of our current debt. So that leads me to a couple of philosophical discussions that I wanted to leave you with today. Okay, around this whole issue of, well, it sounds far-fetched, but it's being implemented. Okay, and there's other implementations around specific causes for other money that's being done around the world, but this is the first, most comprehensive one. But I just want to leave you with something today. I want to challenge your consciousness about the government and money and our current monetary and economic woes, because my belief is that we really are banging on the wrong doors when we go into the government saying, please fix these social economic problems. As I've said before in the past lectures, the government is not an institution that was designed to be a creator of anything. They govern things. And when we go to them and press them for solutions to create a solution, what do we tend to see? We tend to see that the solutions don't work. Okay, they don't work as intended, and they get all muddied up. Okay, whereas if we go out and create the financial economic things, then the government's free to govern those. That's what the government does. Okay, but let's just look at our current economic system. I just want to share with you a press release that came out back in April 22nd, and I'm sure you guys all heard about this, but this is an interesting press release. I'm not going to criticize it too much, because I'm not here to criticize the government or any of these financial institutions, but this is a press release from the governors of the World Bank and the IMF, and basically, I don't know if I should read it word for word. It just seems kind of wild to me. But it turns out, I'm just going to summarize it here. It turns out there's a secret trust. It's been held in secret for 50 years, guys, 50 years. A secret trust. It sounds a little like Indiana Jones to me. The trust has within it precious metals, gems, and artwork. Okay, and this trust was held in by the Bretton Woods, some organization that the Bretton Woods institutions controlled. And now what's happened is they say, hey, we got all this fine art and a whole cache of jewelry and treasures, and we're going to use this treasure now to remonetize the United States. I mean, this is great news, right? I mean, we're going to pay off the national debt. And have you heard about this? I don't know. This is a press release that came out. I'm not making this up. It's a wild story here. They even have guys in here. There's a Superior General of the Society of Jesus, isn't there? I've never heard of any of these organizations. But what this means to us is that they claim that they're going to turn over this stuff, and they're going to actually not just recapitalize the United States, but all the monetary systems of the world. So that effectively what they're saying here is that they're going to use this to pay off all the debt that's owed by all the governments. Now that's great, because then the government doesn't get any complaints about the debt anymore, right? But let me ask you a question. If this is true, and this is really going to happen, what difference would it make if the bars of gold, the artwork, the jewelry, let's say the bars of gold were actually lead bars spray painted in gold, because they're actually going to keep this stuff, by the way. They're going to keep it in South Korea for some reason. All these treasure chests. They're just going to issue papers of ownership to the different governments. Okay, so what difference would it make if those bars of gold were made out of lead, just spray painted gold? Would it make any difference to anybody in this room? No. Okay. I say that to make you guys aware of that the consciousness of our entire monetary economic system can be toyed with and changed with the stroke of a pen by a few guys, and there's really not much we can do about it, but I don't know, it really affects us. The only thing that really we care about today is that we can take $1 and spend it to buy something. And they know this. The government knows this. So what they're effectively also saying is they're going to mandate that all the governments go back to commodities-based currency. Now, that didn't work in the past, and I can tell you right now, it's going to, where we already have a problem of not enough money to go around, it's actually going to reduce the amount of money even further that's available to go around. Okay, so we're almost at 0% interest rates, but yet banks aren't lending because they've been punished for lending and their poor lending practices. So we're in this weird circumstance where our old money system just isn't adequate to deal with the problems, as there's not enough money to go around, period. Okay, so the press release for .money, you can look that up on the internet, but basically it solves the problems that we were just talking about. So the last thing I wanted to do today was just throw some questions out to you guys to get you thinking about something. Let's assume for a minute that you get behind the concept of .money, or that you're, and you say, hey, you know what, why would someone need to have, why should someone just be given $1,200 to $1,600 a month? Well, let me give you my answer, and then let me just I'll throw out one last issue to you guys. My answer to that question, which I talk about in my book, is that unbeknownst to you, everybody, rich and poor, has given up something in order to participate and subscribe to the different governments around the world. Okay? When I say subscribe, we all submit to the authority of governments, whether it be communist, capitalist, all over the world. One of the key functions that those governments do, as we just talked about today, was they protect property. Okay, well, whose property? Well, whoever owns it, right? Well, there's a problem there, right? Because as Christians, we can all acknowledge that really, we don't really technically own anything. We're born into a world that's supposed to be given to us by God for us to use, and then we die. We take any of that stuff with us? Not really. But we have this notion that helps us to get along with each other. That's your shirt, and I can't take it with you. If I try to take it from you, the police will stop me from doing it. So the government governs this property. And as a result of that implementation, which, you know, I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying that's the way it is, we've given up something. We've given up our right to walk out the door and just live on a patch of land undisturbed by anybody else. If we don't like what's happening in society, we can't do that because someone owns the property. Okay, so there's something has been taken away from us inadvertently, as you say, over the course of time. And in order to restore it, this is my argument as to why someone should be given $1,200 to $1,600 a month. To be able to do that which they would be able to do if the government didn't exist and supposedly control the money supply and all that. And that is simply to exist as a single entity without having to have as their single most important interest in life the accumulation of property. What if people are uninterested? Some people are uninterested in that, and they get ostracized in our society. Well, you don't have a job. You're just lazy. You just want to live off of everybody else. Well, what if it's not your most important thing in life is making money? What if you'd rather spend time with your pal? There's no facility for these things where you just go out and live off the land. So we've already had something taken away from us by subscribing to the systems of government. I don't care what system of government it is. So we need a safety net. We need something given back to us. So I propose give back to just a little bit, enough money to enable you to go out and rent a house and to eat food, and that's it. Okay, in our society, I put that at $1,200 to $1,600 a month. But let me leave you with this question. And please, buy my book, read it, and get it online. I'll sell it to you at a discount here. But I go through this in detail. I talk about the American Indian, some really interesting stuff in there. A lot of biblical scriptures in there. Is there any problem that anybody? I just want you guys to throw out any problems in the world right now. Any problem, whether it be a personal problem. What do you think some of the biggest problems are? Anybody? ISIS. Okay. ISIS. There has been put forth this crazy notion that, well, if we just gave all those guys jobs, that they would go away. Okay. I think that within that country, wouldn't you all agree that the economic systems in there may have helped to contribute towards the creation of these groups? Because I think it would be easy for us to imagine that some of these people are angry because they feel that they have no opportunity. I'm not justifying anything that they're doing, but let's just look at the chaos that occurs in that region. Do you think that some of the people in that movement, had they in their lives been facilitated with $1,200 a month to survive, do you think that they would start picking up arms to try to fight so hard? I'm just talking about some of them. I'm not talking about all of them, because we're talking about a religious ideology too that they're fighting for. But I'm just saying that, do you think the economic conditions of their country contributed to the way it is right now? Do you think that they have any contribution to the way they are right now? The economic conditions in the world have no implications on how when people go to pick up arms. You don't believe that? Okay, fair enough. I believe that they do. I believe that people who are poor can get really pissed. I've seen it in Africa. I've had many missionaries go through there where you could go into any region, and as a missionary, you could do help for one people, and they'll subscribe to Christianity because you gave them some money and help and assistance, and in the minute you leave, the Muslim crew comes through and does the same thing, and then they subscribe to Islam. Okay, so the financial, at least I believe that the financial conditions make a difference. Okay.
So I might also add that when we conducted the surge in Iraq, remember we sent all those troops into Iraq, General Petraeus paid out over $400 million to some of the warring factions within Iraq in order to quiet everybody down. And that's when the peace really started to occur. And so if an IDE or something went off somewhere, the payments would stop, and people would get angry, and they would resume again when things were going well. And this actually helped to bring peace to the country. So we've all heard the expression, money talks. I think it spoke volumes there during the Iraq war when we were there trying to implement the surge.
And so I'm not saying, according to my system, we should just give them all money, because they would be unlawfully using the money if they were conducting terrorists and trying to kill people and all that. Yeah.
Just to make a valid point, one of ISIS's main objectives is to actually go and swoop in and change the economies of everywhere they touch. So
yeah,
they're well connected with the economy. So
yeah, so there is economic implications in there. Let's bring up another problem. Any issue, personal or government or world. Any issue.
The condition of man. How do we change his heart through money?
Okay, yeah. So do you think if people were provided with a subsistence amount of money that they would be able to spend more time with their family?
I believe that so. But I don't believe that will change the person's heart itself, because we're basically evil without Christ.
Okay. And so do you think that good men like yourself, whose hearts are conditioned towards Christ, would then have more time to go out and help other people if they had a subsistence amount of money?
I think I have plenty enough time. God has given me enough time to do what He has led me to do, with or without a job.
So do you think that would enable you further if you had more money to work with?
Probably not, because we're stewards of our time.
Okay, so
it depends on what time God has given us to do.
Okay, so I believe that many good Christian men who had more money to work with would be able to do greater things. That's just what I believe. Maybe not in your case, but I believe that would help.
What do you do when that $1,200, $1,600 a month isn't enough anymore and they start asking for more? That's what always inevitably happens.
Well, and I go through my book and talk about how to reset the economy, because there are other implications like inflation. And there are a lot of beliefs about inflation and the value of money right now that aren't based on fact. Okay, so inflation is an inherent human condition. It's going to occur in any economy. So there has to be ways and means to deal with that. So I don't want to keep you guys any longer because we're running over. But what I would encourage you to do is read the book. And if anything that I'm saying, you disagree with it, I would encourage you to read the book even harder. Because before you form an opinion about it, at least know what it is that you're arguing against. That's all I would have to say. But thanks, guys.
I appreciate it, Eric.
Yeah.
Listen,